welcome. You're listening to Passages, and we're glad that you're here. I'm here with Tim and Jason, and we're just really excited to be able to do our show. It's always great to get together with you guys. The weather's been weird. It's a, threat of tornado, then like 1 degree above zero.
And still more to come, right?
So it's going to get cold.
Well, and wind gust of like 50 miles an hour. We found a new leak in our house. I found a new leak at work. That was fun.
The
wind and the rain.
The other night, it was really late, and Ava, my daughter, was getting up to go to bed. And as she got up, the power flickered a little bit. And she said, "Oh, I can't do this." And I said, "What's the big deal? You're going to bed. You don't need power." And she said, "I need my rain noise." Now, it was pouring down rain outside. Yeah. And I said,
"That's great.
Can you hear what's going on outside?" She's like, "No, I'm talking about real rain noise."
Like this is real rain noise. Yeah.
If it goes off, just crack that window just a tad.
But not too much because the rain is coming in horizontally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's right.
I asked her, I said, "Please tell me you at least know why this is funny to me."
Yeah. Now, the worst feeling in the world is when the power goes out in the middle of the night and the ceiling fan and the pedestal / box fan stops.
I have nothing to...
I can't say
anything about...
Oh, yeah. 2 fans going all year round.
I can't say anything about what Ava's doing. I've got so many things that are, plugged up of necessity. So, between, there's a CPAP machine.
I got my CPAP running,
right?
Yeah.
There's 2 fans in the room.
Yep.
There's a sound machine. The immediate quietness would be...
It's an eerie feeling.
It'd be more than I could handle.
You guys aren't ready for the apocalypse.
No, absolutely not.
No. Well, guys, it has been a really strange year in Alabama.
And it's only 10 days in, right?
January 10th as of this recording.
I want to run through a couple of things that have happened in state since January 1st, which is 9 days ago. And it's been an unusual week. So the first one, I think, let's see what date this is. So this is updated on January 9th. This was actually after, let's do this one second because this is after the big story.
All right.
So Leeds has made national news. We are famous for a lot of things. Charles Barkley, number 1. Barber Motorsports Park, number 2. We now have Buc-ee's, number 3.
Is number 2.
No, I think Barber's has got the international pull that Buc-ee's doesn't.
Leeds City of Valor, that makes the list. We have
Tree City, USA.
Multiple Medal of Honor winners.
We have a Bass Pro Shops, which is one of 4 or 5 in Alabama.
Bass Pro Shop. Anything been happening up there lately?
Well, Tim, it's funny that you ask. There was a little news break that happened earlier. I think it was last Thursday night. Yeah. I'll just give you the title of an article I pulled up on the Trustful Times, and if they would like to sponsor this podcast, we'd be happy to let them sponsor it. But naked man takes swim at Bass Pro Shop in Leeds. This story has gone viral. I have seen it on every national news outlet you can find.
I'll share that one of my coworkers who lives in New Jersey sent me the clip from the New York Post.
Yeah, it's gone everywhere. So, and it ultimately it's kind of a sad story, but we can't ignore it. It's got to be told. So imagine this: there's a calamity outside of Bass Pro Shop, nearly closing time, which is like 10 o'clock, I think. A car pulls into the parking lot, hits a pole, and out jumps a man. Man strips down, runs into Bass Pro Shop, which I'm going to pause here and ask, did he hit the automatic door button and wait on both sets of doors to open, or did he do the pull open and run through? That's something I've wondered.
Pretty stout if he pulled
and
that door
did he
open.
hit that turnstile? Because that comes next.
That turnstile was probably uncomfortable. So he makes a beeline.
Because when you said strip down, you mean to like a T-shirt, pair of shorts?
I mean, he was wearing what the Lord gave him.
There we go.
So he makes a run. He sprints down, goes up to the second floor somehow, or on the way up. I'm guessing up the stairs.
Up those stairs, yeah.
Though there's a part of me that would really love to think he took the elevator with the glassed-in front.
I think most of the clips we've seen begin, he's
already up there.
Right?
So he gets over into where the waterfall feature is with it, and he does a cannonball. I mean, I've seen the video. I think anyone that wants to see it, it's out there. You find it. He does a cannonball and swims around and yells a few things, and then the police show up, and he gets out again, and he does, I wouldn't call it a swan dive. It was kind of between a dive and a belly flop.
It wasn't a great dive.
No, but it was really a funny image.
1.2.
But it created a great transition from the cannonball, right?
It really did.
Going back in differently this time.
And I'm not sure which got more splashes over the edge of the aquarium, the dive or the cannonball, because there was a lot of water coming over the front of that thing. So the police...
Fortunately, no fish either time.
No fish were injured in this. Now, they saw some things they could never unsee. I would love to hear them talking to each other like, I cannot believe that happened. It's kind of like that fish you catch, and you pull them up out of the water and you throw them back after you've caught them, and they go down and tell their friends what just happened to them, and nobody believes it. And these fish are having those types of conversations. But so the police show up, and it's really funny. There's two officers. It's not funny. Bless their heart. I would not want to be in this position. And they're obviously trying to figure out, how are we getting Naked Wet Man out of a tank? And I went to Bass Pro Shop the other night just because I like Bass Pro Shop. And that tank's a little fishy smelling. It's rough. I would not want to swim in it. And I would not want it on my clothes if I'm an officer.
But fortunately,
he decided he was
going to for him, right?
He was going to climb out over the front of the tank.
And really, the scariest part of this whole thing.
Oh,
right?
It's
a wonder this man didn't
fell,
die.
And I mean, it sounds like an egg hitting concrete if you listen to the video.
Because anybody that knows about Bass Pro Shop, that floor's rock.
That's concrete.
Right? Concrete.
Yeah.
And there's a rock wall and like a small wall at the bottom of that tank.
I don't know how it did.
The landing was, it knocked him unconscious. And of course they cuff him and drag him out of the store, which is, and then the follow up to it over the last few days, you hear some of the background, and it's really a sad story. It's funny in that it happened. It's sad in the situation it happened in, and we hate it for that family because it's something that'll always be part of their history. But the video is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's sad but funny.
Can we talk about another aspect of this video?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You've hit some of the really high points of the video. But, so I think fortunately for the policeman, and fortunately that, it didn't kill him, right? But he was unconscious when they went to cuff him, right?
Yeah.
So there wasn't a big fight then.
No.
But when he came to...
He's not happy.
He is not happy.
And I think he's confused.
And it's almost as if while in the tank, he took on the life of a fish of some sort, because he begins to flop like a fish out of water.
Yeah. And they drag him out of there.
They drug him. They drug him from wet to dry in a hurry.
And you could see the streak of wet behind him. Now, I got tickled at the officer. So the officer pulls out his taser and he's pointing it at this guy on the floor.
I thought
wet.
he had a taser.
And he's soaking wet, standing in water, water everywhere. I'm thinking taser is not a good idea in this situation.
Yeah.
And he was already at this point handcuffed.
Well, do you think that was part of the move out of the water was, if we have to tase this guy,
I don't know, but
we need to get
I'm
dry
thinking
ground.
I should have asked one of our buddies that's a policeman, what happens if you tase somebody while standing in a puddle of water and they're in water? It can't be good.
No.
So that was the first story, and it was, like I said, it went absolutely viral.
It did. It went nuts. And
I
so
saw it
we
on
got
all
it.
kind of news
We got it on.
outlets.
We talked about it on Friday morning together.
Yep.
At about 6:00, and it just started exploding.
Oh yeah. I have friends in Tennessee that were sending me messages about it.
I went to the grocery store that day and walked by two conversations about it.
Yeah.
Because I immediately thought about the podcast when I heard it, and I thought, oh, this will be good to cover. And then I thought, by the time we get to record, this will have gotten across the whole country. Everybody will know about it.
But with our our international audience, there are some people who may not have heard
There's
this, and
some of the folks in Romania and Japan.
And once we get big, people will come back in later years to listen to the whole series.
Yes.
And so it won't be news at that
it'll
point.
be.
You make
So
a great point.
Yeah.
I thought surely nothing else chaotic can happen in Alabama.
Don't
after
call me
that.
Shirley.
Well, I'm sorry, Tim. I thought Tim. Surely nothing else could happen. But then a patient was telling me about this story. So I'm going to read the opening to this article. Leeds Bass Pro Shops, hold, insert the person's name, beer. So it sounds like somebody else has done something that Leeds Bass Pro Shop should sit back and say, this is
Leeds Bass Pro, hold my beer.
Yeah, because
right,
watch
whatever.
this, basically.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
took me a minute to wrap my head
the
around
article is
We're about to one-up you.
man stuck in urn at Mountain Brook party, loses pants, and breaks expensive vase and the Alabama internet. This is on AL.com. This happened actually during New Year's Eve in Mountain Brook, but it's just starting to hit the news cycle. Let's see if I can find a part of it where it says. So this guy, and there's some great pictures of it, decides to climb into an urn. Obviously, if you watch the video, I mean a vase, a giant, like, decorative.
So
we've all seen these.
Not like Dad's ashes.
Well, we were talking about this at dinner with my boys tonight about this story, and an urn is just a vessel. It can be little and it can be big. Yeah. You could put ashes in it. You could put flowers in it.
Large enough to hold a man's body.
Well, at least his lower torso. So he climbs in, I guess, feet first, and somehow or another gets himself wedged into it and can't get out. Now, there are videos on the AL.com story. Unless you like expletives, I don't know that I recommend watching them. Or if you watch them, turn the volume down. It's still funny watching him try to get out. He's obviously intoxicated. But ultimately, he took his belt off to try to wriggle out. That didn't work. Inside the urn, somehow or another, he got his pants off. He came out pantsless. And
because he took his belt off.
I guess so, or maybe when he wriggled out. Ultimately, they had to break it. And the article said that the vase is estimated to cost between like $500, $1,500, something like that dollars. So not only is this guy in trouble for getting stuck in the vase, and then so Leeds had a little bit of a black eye, and we'll handle it. We can laugh about ourselves. Leeds does not take itself too serious. Mountain Brook, on the other hand, they take themselves very serious.
I believe you've broken my urn.
Yeah, I love. They probably. It was probably something from the Ming Dynasty or something in Mountain Brook. But I just got really tickled at that story, and then I thought, well, surely nothing else can happen in Alabama this week.
Can't imagine that it could.
But wait, there's more. So in Carpool Line, I'm pulling up the picture right now that I'd saved. In Carpool Line, what's today? Today's Wednesday. Yesterday, Tuesday. I get to work and I start getting text messages about what's going on at Leeds Primary School. What would you do if you're pulling through, and y'all all know what the carpool lines or the drop-off at the schools look like, right? Sure. The rider line where they get out of the cars. It's backed up all the way down into 78. Yeah. It takes 30 minutes to 30 minutes if you get there at the
primary
wrong time.
School line like goes in, winds down to the tennis courts, wraps around, comes up.
It's awful.
Everywhere you can put a car.
If you're new to this car line, you're in trouble.
What was it doing yesterday morning? Pouring down rain. Yeah. It was still raining, stormy, windy, which makes carpool line or car rider line even worse. And what happens on rainy mornings, a lot of people that put their kids normally on the bus go through car rider line because it's pouring down rain. They don't want their kids out there. So it's pouring down rain, the line's backed up, and what happens? A guy pulls up, and out from underneath his car falls the deer that he has hit on Highway 78 on his way to school. So he hit. I've got the picture pulled up.
So did he hit it and saw it?
I guess
but
it hit it and went under the car.
And he thought, it's gone,
somewhere behind
right?
I didn't realize he had drug it there.
And so from somewhere on 78, he drives the victim of the victim are the poor children that had to see Bambi lying in the car drop-off line. But
not just Bambi, but Bambi drug for 2 miles, right?
Yeah, the poor little guy put up a fight for the first mile. It's kind of like in National Lampoon's Vacation when they chain leash the dog to the bumper. But can you imagine you're dropping off your kid?
I should take this stick and beat you within an inch of your life.
The poor little guy probably put up a good fight for the first mile. But can you imagine you're dropping off your preschooler who's 4 years old, and there's a carcass laying out, and so the principal ultimately went out there and drugged the deer off the roadway out into the grass, and I think City of Leeds came and picked it up.
One of the oddest things I've ever seen driving to church a couple of weeks ago, Sunday morning, I drive by, it's by my brother's house. It wasn't in his yard, but his neighbor's yard. I saw, just out of the corner of my eye, just real quick, I saw a state trooper with a shotgun up against a deer's head. The deer was on the ground. And then it was one of those things where I'm like, I didn't see what I think I just saw. But we were late and didn't have time to turn around and look. But my brother confirmed that somebody had hit a deer.
And they were putting it out of its misery.
State troopers, and they went out there to put it out of its misery.
Dispatch it, if you will. But that was just... What a crazy week. So in the matter of 9 days.
That's crazy.
We got a guy swimming at Bass Pro. And I guess if you go in order, you got a guy stuck in an urn.
These are the things we know about.
That have happened in Mountain Brook. Guy at Bass Pro. Deer shows up from being drugged. Who knows from how far.
I wondered how that deer got there.
That's how it got there.
I didn't hear the whole story.
The first thing I heard was that it had run up into the carpool line, like ran into a car and fell. But that's not what happened.
Yeah.
It was ground beef. It had been drug in.
Yeah.
So, but those are just some. And then today, to top everything off, this is going to cause some chaos, I'm afraid. Nick Saban retired.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
We learned this 2.5, 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Just came out, right?
Yep. I was walking out of work, and I look up, and there's the TV, and there's the headline. The GOAT has retired.
How many years was he there?
He was there for 17.
17 years.
It was
That's a good tenure there.
2007. And really more, I think back to like when he first arrived.
Yeah.
He had never stayed at a job for an extended period of time. And so it was you remember what the deal it was when he showed up. It was like Elvis had come to Tuscaloosa. I mean, there are still pictures that they show of when he landed in that plane and got off, and there were throngs of people, patting him on the back and hugging his neck. And, I think he probably thought, what in the world is going on here? Because, I mean, he's just a football coach, right?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it went crazy, right?
I've never been in Alabama.
And so, so he had, it was, from Michigan State to LSU to the Miami Dolphins and then to Alabama.
Yep.
4 or 5 years in a place was really, and so, the anticipation always was, how long will he stay? 5 years? He may decide I want to go back to the NFL again. And, he had gotten the Dolphins like to the brink of the playoffs, but he had been successful in every, in a pretty big way everywhere else, especially at LSU, won a national championship, went to the Dolphins. And it's like, he may stick around 5 years. So he comes in 2007. We win the national championship in 2009. I do what Alabama fans do, right, and claim we, like,
I know you had your ankles taped for that game.
Oh, you better believe it. And, we'll be flying the Alabama flag at half staff for the next month at the Layton House.
Now, I did hear that he agreed that whoever they hire, that he will lay hands on them and pass on his...
I certainly hope so. Yeah. But, 17 years is
that's a long
immensely more than I would have ever expected him to stick around. And I must say that today I was not the least bit surprised. I really, it didn't, you're getting a little age on you when you can remember when Bear Bryant announced his retirement. It was just 41 years ago, but I mean, I remember it well. And, that day was like, what? Of course.
But this one kind of makes a little sense.
This one makes all kinds of sense.
The game is changing a lot.
In a big way.
Yeah.
He's 72 years old. He looks great for 72. I mean, let me do that comparison, right?
Oh, yeah.
Bear Bryant at 69 retired in December, died 2 weeks later, and he looked 85 years old. Saban is 72, looks like he could pass for 65.
Oh, yeah.
In good shape. Hopefully, there no health issues. He lives 15, 20 more years, but he's making $10 million a year. Just bought I think like a $10 million estate in West Palm Beach. And what you said about the game changing, I've thought for a couple of years now, why in the world is this guy continuing to do this? Because, he's won, 6 national championships at Alabama. All the success that he could ever think about having, and now he not only has to worry about it, has to get harder when you're 72 years old to go talk to 15 to 17-year-old kids and try to convince them to come to your school, right? It's got to that's got to
especially
get
with
after you've won so many games,
after you've won so much,
especially after the name and likeness stuff and the
and
transfer portal stuff,
and that's it,
that's
right? And I think that's the
playoffs.
That's the big change, right? Because he's always done this stuff, and he can always talk to those kids about, I can help you develop and help you with your future and all that kind of stuff. And now, we've always said, well, the thing what we all like about college football is it's not the pros. It's like worse than the pros now.
Yeah.
I mean, at least the pros, I was talking to Richard Box about this a while ago, at least in the pros you have a contract, right?
Yeah.
And it says like, hey, for the next 5 years, I'm going to pay you, $7 million a year, but you got to honor this contract. And some people break them every now and then, but generally speaking, there's some sense of control. It's the Wild West out there right now.
Yes.
So Alabama will be the perfect example, right? So things are set right now. They recruited a class. They just got some folks into the transfer portal. They just had people leave the transfer portal. And what happens, right? So Nick Saban leaves. We don't know who's coming in. Now, the transfer portal's closed right now, but it opens back up in May. And listen, if it's not the right guy, and this guy doesn't endear himself to these 85 guys that are on this team,
mice getting off a sinking ship.
Hey, and these guys.
My son already saw something about an incoming recruit that has
changed his mind.
He's not going to go to Alabama now.
Yeah.
And any of the top recruits that want to go to the University of Georgia, our doors are open.
And in the past, so like. It's all so. There's a signing day that's happened already, and then there's like I think there's one more that's later or whatever. But if those, in the past, if you signed, you're in, and you're going to stay. But now, really, all they've got to do is I'm going to take my transfer when the portal opens back up in May. I think about that Dr. Pepper commercial now, right? With the portal opening up and all the players sucking into it. But so in May they just say, well, I'm decided to go somewhere else or whatever. So it's it's a real balancing act, right? And the other part of this, and so I could talk about Alabama a lot more than anybody wants to listen to it, but. The other part of it is who comes in now, right? Yeah. And this is a real interesting phenomenon, and it happened when Bear Bryant retired in '82. Is like who wants to be the man after the man, right? And so for Alabama fans that have lived as long as I have, this is the second time this is happening. This is the second time that you've got a coach following the greatest of all time. And that sounds arrogant, but Bear Bryant was, and Nick Saban is the greatest of all time. And so, this next guy, I mean, what kind of makeup do you have to have? So I was driving home today, and they're mentioning 2 or 3 guys that would fit the mold.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned Dan Lanning, who's the head coach at Oregon, and Sarkisian, that's the head coach at Texas. And you have to ask yourself, why in the world would either one of these guys come to Alabama? Well, they mention them because they're in the Saban tree.
They are.
Right? Both of them. Lanning was a grad assistant for Saban. Sarkisian basically sort of revived his career by coming to Alabama and working with Saban and becoming his OC, and had 2 stints there. And, so there's an attachment there, but they're both in highly attractive top 5 programs in the country.
It's going to take somebody with a lot of ego.
Right.
Somebody's shadow right now.
That's right. And so if they win a national championship at Oregon or at Texas, they'll name buildings and stadiums and erect statues after them. If they win a national championship at Alabama, you know what they're going to say? 5 more and you catch Saban.
That's right.
Right? And so, so it becomes, really challenging for, a lot of times we say in a situation like this, you don't want to be the guy. You want to be the guy after the guy, right? So you want to be that next guy in line after we've gone through some hard times, right? And so, then you can be the guy who comes in to save the day, because we've sort of made that transition. And so the question's going to be, is it time for hard times at Alabama? And listen, we can't cry. We had 6 national championships in 17 years. That's ridiculous,
it is.
And so, we'll enjoy that and see what happens. But it will be, just from a complete fan's perspective, it's going to be really interesting to see who comes in. And Jason, you said a minute ago, who's got enough ego to do this?
Oh, I have a name.
And we know tell me who's got enough ego to do it.
Lane Kiffin.
You're exactly right. The guy has unlimited quantities of ego.
He's got a tie.
He
thinks he can be the man.
Without sounding sacrilegious, he would follow Jesus as coach at the University of Alabama without any thought about it, because he loves Lane Kiffin. And so that may be the guy that ends up. The other thing,
Alabama fans don't like him.
No, I'm telling you though, he is the most likely to go.
I really like him, but he scares me because he's edgy, and you wonder, when is he going to blow this thing up? And I don't know in what way.
At some point he snaps.
But, he was offensive coordinator for Alabama and did an amazing job.
He's a good coach.
He took us to the Final Four with a running back at quarterback. Literally, Blake Sims was a running back. He turned him into a quarterback that got them into the college football playoffs. And it was because he could scheme up stuff. And there was this whole deal that he would do when he was at Alabama, and he does it some at Ole Miss now, but he'd call a play, and you see him on the sidelines throwing his hands up in the air or whatever, because as the play begins, he knows it's a touchdown. And because he's got the scheme working or whatever, and then, all of a sudden, there it is. And so that may likely be where it lands, and it will be fun, but there'll always be a tinge of, when's he going to blow it up?
Yeah. The guy who sighed the biggest sigh of relief today, though, Hugh Freeze at Auburn.
Yeah,
he was like, whew,
right.
That's good news.
Right, this could be the break I need.
The rebuild is looking better.
That's right, absolutely. So, it will be it'll be some fun times, and it may be the time that, us Bama fans get to eat some humble pie. So we'll see.
You can still count on 2 hands your last national championships in the last 15 years.
All right, welcome back. We, as usual, are turning to our passage for the week. And Jason, why don't you read it for us?
All right, so this is, I believe this is our second, and I think that's the second one I picked by him, Robert Louis Stevenson quote. And I really like this one, and I think it'll generate a really good discussion. So the quote is, "You cannot run away from a weakness. you must sometimes fight it out or perish. And if that be so, why not now and where you stand? So you cannot run away from a weakness. You must sometimes fight it out or perish. And if that be so, why not now and where you stand? So when I read this quote, I thought back to a passage, throwing in our name of our podcast. It's Passages. Go ahead and like and subscribe and give us 5 stars. But I thought about a passage in a book I read named Dopamine Nation. And it's a book written by Anna Lemke, who is a psychiatrist at Stanford. And it talks about dopamine, how it reacts, addictive behaviors, things like that. One of the things I really like about that book is it says that the cell phone is the modern hypodermic needle, and I thought that was a really cool thing. But she, in one of the stories she tells in that book, she is talking to someone who has a drug problem, and she asked the person, "Do you want to stop your drug problem?" And the person, it was a female, she said, "Yeah, I want to stop it. This is not something I want to do my whole life. I don't want to, be old and do this." And she asked her, "Well, do you want to stop it by the time you're 50? And she was like, "Absolutely, I want to stop it by the time I'm 50. And she said, "Well, how about in 10 years? Do you want to stop it then?" And she was like, "Well, yeah, I don't want to still be using in 10 years. And she said, "Well, how about 5 years? Do you want to stop it then?" And she worked her way all the way down, and she was like, "Okay, if you want to stop it in 10 years and you want to stop it in 5 years and you want to stop it in a year and in 6 months, why don't you just stop today?" And I thought of that when I read this quote, because it says, "And if that be so, why not now and where you stand?" So if you're battling with something that's a weakness and you want to fight it, don't procrastinate on it, because if you procrastinate, it's hard. You may never get started on it.
Right.
Make your stand where you are.
I had to read this a couple of times to get the meaning right. It was written a long time ago, and no criticism toward Robert Louis Stevenson at all. He was a great writer. But, he says, "You cannot run away from a weakness. You must sometimes fight it out or perish." So at first I thought he was saying sometimes you have to fight it out, but not all the time. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying at some point you have to fight it out, or the other choice you have is to die, right?
To give in to the weakness.
You've got to pick a time to fight it out, or you're going to die.
That's right.
And so that leads into the end part. So if you have to sometimes fight it out, if there's a time you have to pick to fight it out, then choose now as the time.
Yep.
Which I think is true. And I think it's also interesting that he wrote Jekyll and Hyde, which is kind of a study of fighting your demons.
It is.
And if you've never read it, it doesn't take long to read. Jason, you've read it. It's like
I've read it multiple times.
80-page book.
Less than 100 pages. You can read it in a sitting. And
it's really exciting, and it's a psychological drama. I mean, it really...
And if you have any history in your family or any history in your own life with addiction or mental illness or things like that, that book will really, really resonate to you. Because he was dealing with alcoholism when he wrote it. I mean, he was an alcoholic, and he was writing it in response to his demons, which was alcoholism.
Yeah. And he speaks from experience.
He does.
I would imagine this is wisdom he got the hard way.
Yep.
But I really like the quote. You can't run away from... And this term weakness is an interesting choice of words for, we assume, alcoholism on his part. It's a stand-in for any... It's not a weakness like a physical disability. You can't do anything about it. He's talking about something you can change. So obviously he looks at, we would call it a spiritual weakness.
That's the way I would define it.
Not a thorn in the flesh situation where the weakness God can use the weakness for your good. This is a weakness you need to overcome, or you're going to die.
Self-inflicted weakness. It can be pride. It could be a lot of different things. But anything...
It'd be a sin.
That's right. Anything that you're struggling with that's taking you out of your strengths in life, your strengths of character. I like to think of it as character flaws.
Yeah. Right. Anything between you and God.
Yeah.
I was thinking back to what you were saying about the, the discussion in the Dopamine Nation book about, that sort of that time breakdown. And I think there's probably a lot of things that all of us can list given that we're only 10 days into the new year, we might have thought about this around New Year's resolutions. How am I going to improve myself, this year? We do that at the beginning of a year because we at least have some arbitrary start to something that says, okay, if you're going to resolve to do this, start it now and do it. Because I think, to that whole discussion about stopping drugs, whatever the challenge is that you're trying to face, conceptually, most of the time we all want to change that. It's some kind of weakness, right? I mean, this is what it says, a weakness. And so if we've got a weakness, we want to eliminate that weakness. The problem with all of us is changing the behavior associated with that weakness. And so while conceptually, I'll take one of mine, I'd love to lose some weight, and maybe I'll stop eating this cheeseburger at the beginning of February, right? Or 6 months from now, or after my open heart surgery, or whenever, right? Yep. But actually making that behavior change, because if it's a weakness, it's not easy.
No.
Right? Because if it was easy, it wouldn't be a weakness, right? It'd just be, all right, I'm going to change it, and do it now. But that's the whole deal about the only way that you can address a weakness is to say, all right, it's time.
That's right.
And let's face it head on here. Another thing about this that stands out to me is this or perish part, right? Because sometimes what we're doing is continuing this. The perishing's not necessarily, hey, it just kills you and you're dead like Rover, dead all over. You may be dying all the time, with whatever it is.
But you reach a point of no return.
Right. You're dying, right? You're heading toward an addictive state, right? Where you've just given yourself over to something.
Or an apathetic state where you just said, I can't do anything about this. I'm just
or just a hopeless state.
That's right.
I can't beat this. Just can't do it. I'm too far gone. I can't change. I've done this way for too long. Whatever it might be, I can't fix it. Right, and that. So I think that perishing comes in a lot of different kinds of forms that we just mentioned.
I think it's in the same form of when God tells Adam and Eve, if they eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they will surely die. And Satan comes up and he says, hold on a second, you're not going to die.
Define die.
But at that point, from that point on, man has been perishing continually because of that one act. And I think it's in that same form. I think one of the things that is so important about doing it now and where you are right now is procrastination is driven by anxiety, fear, and inability to face ourselves. We don't like to think about our flaws and the things that eat away at us, our weaknesses. We get anxious about the thought of having to give up some of them because some of our weaknesses are really something that maybe have defined us or something that we enjoy and we need to get rid of. So the importance of doing it now is if you keep saying, I'm going to wait until the time is right, or I'm going to wait till I'm more spiritual, or I'm more religious, or I'm a better person, well, you're just going to keep waiting. You're never going to have the right time to do it, and you're just going to perpetuate and continue in that weakness. If you want to fix it, you got to rip off the Band-Aid, and you got to start right where you are. And it can be ugly, and you don't have to work it to perfection. It's progress, not perfection, is what you're searching for. You're not looking for, hey, I'm in day one, I've solved all of my weaknesses. Look at me. It's in day one, I worked all day long to get through this weakness and to work against it. And I'm not just doing it by myself. I'm asking God to help me, because if you do it by yourself, you're going to keep failing. I mean, you got to have God involved in getting through those weak moments too. So I think we procrastinate because we're afraid, and that's why he says, if you're going to do it right now and where you stand. Don't wait till times are right. Don't wait till you're prepared. You start where you are and you start working.
We read a book one time. We were in a book club, the three of us together, I believe. You remember the book, The Now Habit?
I do.
There was an analogy to procrastination in that book that I've used ever since. And it was something like, imagine you're asked to walk across a 2x6, walk the length of a 2x6 that's on the ground. You'd be able to do it. You could hop across it. You wouldn't think twice about it. Now raise it 100 feet in the air. Suddenly, it's the same activity. It's the same task. But because of where it is, you are afraid. The fear is there, like you were saying, Jason.
Yeah. Fear
is there, and now all of a sudden it seems like an impossible task. Mm-hmm. And what we do when we procrastinate is we put the 2x6 up 100 feet in the air.
That's right.
When it's really down there, you can do it.
Yep.
For me, to use a simple, safe illustration, what I'm trying to work on this year is phone calls. I procrastinate phone calls. I hate talking on the telephone, and I don't understand why I hate it. I think sometimes I feel I'm always behind anyway, and I feel like the phone call is going to last a long time, so I'll do it later. And this year I'm trying to, if I've got a phone call to make, I just make it. Another thing I've got this thing where I need to fully concentrate on the phone, and like my wife can talk in the living room with TV going and kids running back and forth, and for some reason I've got to be out on the porch or something. I don't know what that is. I don't like talking on the phone with somebody else in the car and using the speakerphone.
Yeah.
So I got to get over some of those things, but a lot of it's just this irrational. It's not fear with the phone call. It's just an irrational anxiety over.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
And I've realized if I make the call, it's over in 5 minutes, not 35 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's just something I've got to trick myself to do, and I'm trying to do that whenever I get a message. Just as soon as I can get back to it, I do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good, when we're trying to reprogram ourselves to do anything that we've not been doing, and that really, speaks to this, where you stand is, we just need to go ahead and knock it out. Don't put it at the bottom of your to-do list where things don't get done, and, you can begin, even though you've committed to start working on it, you procrastinate your way out of it again. It's, these kinds of things we're talking about here. So, if it's, go to the gym, go there the first thing in the day. If it's read your Bible, don't leave it till, the time you're about to pass out at the end of the night. It really is,
because you wind up living your life in fear all the time. Because what is a deadline? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose this.
Go.
A deadline is something you're afraid of more than the task. So it's just fear on top of fear. When you say, I work best with a deadline, what you're saying is, I'm going to be afraid of this project until the scarier wall of a deadline confronts me, and then I'm going to let that scare me into doing that which I'm a little more scared of. Who wants to live like that? But that's how a lot of us live.
It is. And it is amazing what we do to ourselves when it comes to procrastination. And, how many times do you finally do that thing and you're like, man, I wish I had just done that.
Wasn't that bad?
When I had not pressed myself up to a wall to basically force myself to do it, you're teaching this class, get ready for this class. We've all taught these adult classes, and we're like, this week I'm going to get started Sunday afternoon. And
then 11 o'clock Saturday night, you're like, whew, that's a good lesson. I'm ready.
Right, exactly.
And
you're exhausted, and, and so, you made it to the finish line, but, then you think, every time that I sort of read through this concept and start letting it marinate on Monday and Tuesday, and and then I start working on it a little bit on Wednesday and Thursday, and I get to the weekend, and I have to spend more time to finish it up. Then, man, it's so much better, and I feel better about it, and I get up and I can speak about it more easily than just like. It's like our whole life, right? It's like we're in college again, cramming for a test. It's like, it's the same concept. I mean, it's like and if you live your whole life that way, you put yourself through a lot of misery, and this comes from experience, right? I mean, I go look at my to-do list, and it's like, there's some stuff on there. Here's one that I would rather take a sharp stick to the eye than write accomplishments at work. And so every year they set some deadline at the end of the year where you have to submit your accomplishments for your annual review. Mm-hmm. And so it will be, all right, November 15th, need all your accomplishments in, and so that we can write this stuff up, and then we submit stuff before the end of the year, blah, blah, blah. Invariably, it's lunchtime on Friday, November the 15th. And I have to write my accomplishments, right? And it's the only way that I will do it is to be faced with, Tim, you've got 3 hours to complete this task. Go start looking at your calendar and figure out what you did this year.
Do you ever put as one of your accomplishments finishing your accomplishments list?
I should. Because
that's a good accomplishment.
And if I put on there the things that I like to do the least, I mean, it's probably one of the reasons I'm looking forward to retirement the most, because hopefully Millie will not require me to submit accomplishments at the end of the year. Yeah. Once I retire, it's like I've always felt like if I could have a job where my boss just says, "You're great, you're average, you're bad, but you don't have to submit accomplishments," I'd be like, whatever you think. Yeah. It's all good with me. Yeah. And sometimes it's like there are times when I've had bosses that I'm not sure ever read one word in the accomplishments, right? Which is, a different matter altogether, right? Yeah. Because they have to do theirs, and they have to collect all this stuff, and they know whether you're doing your job, pretty much or not already. But it's just another procrastination thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what do we procrastinate? The things that they're not always like that situation. That's not hard. It's not difficult to write up what you've done. It's just, I hate trying to toot your own horn. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hate trying to figure out what's important and what's not. I don't know if I'm supposed to write a half page or 5 pages, and so you just put that stuff off, and it's so. And so if you trained yourself like a reasonable human being would to say, well, I'm going to put a reminder on my calendar on the 29th of each month, I'm going to spend 15 minutes and I'm going to update this accomplishments document for this month. And you know what? On November 15th, I'm going to take that document and I'm going to drop it in somewhere and submit it because, you know what? I'm done. Yeah. But Tim at noon on November 15th is looking at his calendar from January saying, what in the world did I do 11 months ago?
That's right.
Yeah, I think what we should do is ask ourselves why we're not doing this now. And Jason hit the big one, fear. But then I think there's some others that are probably in the category of fear, such as not being really sure what the parameters of the task are. If you had a template and it was just fill in the blank kind of thing, it might get you over that hump. Maybe not. But another big one is, and this might be fear also, is perfectionism.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Perfectionism is also, isn't it kind of a narcissistic thing? Like, why do you think you have to be perfect? Like I was talking to somebody this week about, I've been trying to help guys get their books published. And I was talking to a friend, and he still hasn't sent me his first chapter. And I asked him, I said, are you a perfectionist? And he said, yes. And I said, are you thinking this has to be perfect? And he said, yes. And I said, do you realize it will not be perfect?
Yeah.
It's just perfectionism is kind of a arrogant thing.
It's an unreachable.
No, you're not.
It's an unreachable thing.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
It's a myth. There is no perfect.
And there's
there's Christ. He was perfect. Outside of
I
Christ,
won't do
there's
this
no
till
perfect.
I get it perfect. You're not going to do it then,
Right.
because it's not going to be perfect.
That's why I love that phrase, progress, not perfection.
That's
good.
Yeah.
I have. That is something I think about every day. Progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
There's a part of this quote I want to touch on, though, that we've not mentioned. The very first line: "You cannot run away from a weakness." So often we try to hide from our weaknesses. We try to bury our weaknesses. Sometimes we try to ignore our weaknesses. Sometimes we put on a false show that makes everybody not see our weaknesses. But if you've got a weakness, if you've got a character flaw, if you've got something that you are not whole because of, it will seek you out. And it is a lot better to face a weakness on your own terms than on the terms of the weakness catching up with you. And there's some weaknesses that may never catch up with you. Come judgment, it will. But there's a lot of weaknesses, there's a lot of character flaws that with time will become exposed. And if they're exposed on its term, it's going to be a lot worse for you than if it's exposed on your terms, by facing it, admitting it, being vulnerable, working through it, acknowledging it, humbling yourself, asking God for help. And that's the key in it. I think our pride a lot of times keeps us from facing our weaknesses because we think we're in control. And the fact of the matter is we are totally out of control most of the time. And only through God's help can we find some control. But I love that idea of you cannot run away from a weakness. It's kind of like, I picture it as when somebody, and it's in some of these cartoons where they're running from something and it's tied to their waist or it's tied to their foot and they think it's chasing them, but it's stuck to them. And that's kind of like it is with a weakness. The weakness is yours. It's stuck with you. And if you don't face it, if you don't cut that string on your own terms, it's going to catch up with you.
Reminds me of Hebrews 12, lay aside every weight and sin that clings so closely, and run with endurance the race that's set before us.
That's a great verse.
That's what we're talking about. That weakness is one of those weights that we don't have to carry around with us everywhere we go. It adds to a lot of misery in life. Well, that was a great quote. This is one of my favorites that we've done so far, and there are many more around the corner, so I hope that you're continuing to stick with us. As Jason's already reminded us, there are ways that you can spread the word, so go on there to whatever platform you're using, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Audible, and leave us a review, leave us a rating. That helps get the word out. Most of all, tell your friends and stick with us until next time on Passages.